Hello and welcome back to the Ancestral Craft podcast. I am Alex and I'm from Edinburgh, Scotland. This is episode 4 now. It's been a while since episode 3, so if you're new here, nice to see you. I am Alex, like I say, and I'm a gardener, a weaver, a spinner, just a general crafter, whether that be through fibre crafts or working with plant materials and fibres, or craft in the sense of crafting a lovely home, crafting a good meal, crafting medicine for family with our wonderful wild herbs and plants. It's good to be back. You'll have to forgive me if there's a bit of stopping and starting, or if I appear a bit nervous. It's strange when you take a big break from things and you realise that you do actually need to keep up with things to keep the momentum going. But I am really glad to be back and to be sharing with you what I've been up to for the past few months. And I hope you all have something lovely to drink. I'm drinking some rose and linden tea, linden being lime, so Tilia, that's the Latin name, Tilia. Ours is ex Europea, but you might have a different one. And it's with rose that I collected from the garden. So, well, not my garden, but other people's gardens. But that's the best thing about being a gardener in a city. I don't have space for a garden, but I can just plant things that I want. And you can forage rose petals as well. So this is the time of year to do it. So I love to use rose petal in tea, but it's good for baking, it's good for your own medicine. I like to use it for steam face washes and lots of things, bath salts, whatever. So forage your rose, people. And I've been up to quite a lot recently. Not so much knitting. I have been knitting, of course, but I've been in a space in my life where things have been very hectic, and it's the main theme of the past few months has been looking after myself, finding out what nourishes me, finding out what I need, whether that be just to take more time to cook meals, or take more time to go on hikes, or to just pack up my stuff and go camping in the wild for a few days or a week. And I've been doing a lot of that, so there'll be some lovely footage in here of a time where I was near Oban, which is on the west coast of Scotland, and I went to a bothy on Beltane, which is quite a while ago now. I realise we're nearly at Lunasa, which is the Lammas, or the harvest festival of the grain, which is at the beginning of August, but this was back in April. So yes, it's been a lot, but it was a beautiful time being with good friends and being in the wild, just really immersed in Mother Earth. And it's that nourishment I really needed. I've been in a time of inhale as opposed to exhale, so it's been more about bringing the inspiration in, bringing the wellness for myself in, so that I can bring it out again to share with you and to show you what I've been making and to put that energy into my crafts. So I guess we should just start off, and I'll put stories in where they're needed about what's been going on, but I don't want to make you wait too long. So I will start with some knitting, and I finished this a while ago. I finished this before Beltane when I went to Oban. There's a little tag there, but this, as you'll know, is the Afton Shawl. And this is a pattern by Wenche Rold, who's a Norwegian designer. And I knit this for my partner. If you haven't seen those episodes, there's more information about this jumper in them. But essentially, it's a steeked jumper. You steek the armholes and you steek the neckline. And you join them by seaming. So you join by seaming at the shoulders, which perhaps I can show you a good example. So it's seamed at the shoulders there, here's the join, and then it's also seamed at the arms there. And then you pick up and you knit the neckband. And this was knit in Wool Centrum's 2-plies. I think it's a sport weight, which is from Öland in Sweden. And it's a beautiful yarn. It's very rustic, so perhaps if you have sensitive skin, it's not a great yarn for you. But it's warm and it's more of a layering piece. I don't know if, would I wear this? Yeah, I probably would wear this next to skin, but it's probably not everyone's cup of tea. And these are the colours Stone Grey and Anthracite. And I used about 5 or 6 skeins of the Stone Grey and less than 1 skein of the Anthracite, which is the contrast. And this was a beautiful design to knit, but it was a bit complicated. I struggled a bit with picking up the neckline and making it look the way it's meant to, which reminds me that the neckline is a modification. I knit it in a ribbed neckline because the pattern has you do it all in stockinette and then makes a purl bump ridge, and then you knit in the contrast colour, which is the darker one, and then you fold it down like that. I did that and I tried it twice on the recommended needles and the size down, but it was very bulky and it was gaping at the back of the neck. So I decided to try a ribbed one, and that works way better and it's a lot more flattering on my partner. So this has been worn a lot. I mean a lot. I was worried that I'd finished it too late for it to get any wear, but we had cold weather quite late into the season. And I will show you the inside so you can see all the floats, so I can just air all my dirty laundry, essentially. And here we are, and these are the floats. And a detail about this design that I love is that when you knit your sleeves, you turn it inside out and then you knit for about 2 centimeters, and it creates this interfacing that you join basically before that part. So the join is here, but the steeked part is all hidden and encased by this little interfacing, and it just makes it really tidy on the inside, and I really like that. So that has been off the needles for a while, like I say, and I'm really glad that it is because it was a labour of love, that's for sure. But I've really enjoyed starting the journey of knitting for someone else, and it brings me a lot of joy. And you'll see that another one of my work in progresses is for someone else. It's also for my partner, because I've really just enjoyed knitting things that are new to me, using colours that perhaps I wouldn't use, or using techniques I perhaps wouldn't choose for myself. And yeah, but keeping it rustic, because luckily my partner likes rustic too, and I can't help but knit with nice neutral colours. So in terms of what I have for knitting that I had shown you last time, that is the only finished object. I mentioned in the episode before that I was going to knit the Versal by Albiona McLaughlin, and I am going to, but this is as far as I've got, which is the swatch. And this is in Nutiden, and I think it's Höfta, the colourway. And I really love this colour. It's very similar to Offerings of Trees. I was trying to see if I had my shawl nearby, but I can't compare. But it's more yellow, it's a bit lighter, and it's got a lot of grey and flecks of gold. It's a really beautiful colour. I really am excited to knit this, but I haven't felt called to cast that on yet, and that's something I'm really realising in my knitting practice that I want to get better at. I just want to get better at just knitting what I want to knit in the moment, in the present, in the now, what brings me joy in that moment, and yeah, that has been one of them. my next object, which has been started and finished in the space between podcasting last, and this was knit very lovingly to the dulcet tones of Nicole from the Gentle Knitting podcast. I had COVID a couple of weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, after I got home from holiday to Sweden to visit my partner's family, and I had a lovely time, but COVID did get me at the airport on the way back. So I was watching and listening to a lot of the Gentle Knitter, just going back to her back catalogue, and I learnt to knit to the Gentle Knitter in the very first lockdown, I believe. Yep, I had some wool and some needles, and I learnt to knit my first pair of socks whilst watching Nicole, and it was this very strange full circle moment of being in lockdown, learning to knit to Nicole, to being finally down with COVID and yeah, listening to her again, rewatching the same videos. And I'm very happy with this object that is a product of my COVID time. And this is perhaps one of the most lovely things I've ever made. This is the Cowville Shawl by the wonderful Gabriella from Merryweather Knitting, who's on YouTube. If you don't know her podcast, please check it out, because she has the most wonderful designs and the most wonderful energy and spirit. When you watch her, you really feel absolute calm and joy for crafting and for magic and for folklore. I just really love Gabriella. She's got a great podcast and she designs wonderful things. I mean, this is a very big shawl and every inch of the detail and the design is absolutely stunning. So I believe this shawl is inspired by a castle ruin in Germany where she lives, and you can really feel it. This is like a lattice on an apple pie, and it's got a moss stitch section. Then it has this beautiful lattice section, which is basically just done by one cables, just twisting them round to get this effect. It's so easy. It looks so complicated, and I couldn't really figure out how she'd done this when I looked at the design, but as I was knitting it, I just thought it was so easy, but so complex in the way it looks. And it has lateral braids that separate the sections. So after the lattice, you have this flower border, and I don't know how well this will show up on this background, but there's little eyelets essentially from yarn overs, and there's big flowers, one here and then one in the center of each of the spine of the shawl. So there's 4 in total, and then the rest are these little 4-petaled eyelets. And yeah, and then there's another lateral braid and another moss stitch section to really just mirror each other. And the drape of this, the yarn I used is so beautiful. And this is Hawkshaw Sheep, so Sue from Hawkshaw Sheep. I got this yarn at Perth Yarn Festival. No, not Perth Yarn Festival, the Scottish Wool Producers Showcase. Although she was at Perth, and she will be at Perth next year as well. Well, next September. And yeah, this is her DK weight Shetland wool, and it's in her Café au Lait colorway, which I believe is Morit mixed with a bit of white Shetland. And it just hangs beautifully, but it's also so sheepy and so rustic and warm. And it's just got a nice, just enough weight for it to have that drape, but not too much that when you wear it, it is too much. And I'll put this on for a second, but it's very warm. And yeah, I haven't woven in my 2 ends. But yeah, you can wear it wrapped around you like that. And I don't know how to show you this well. but it reaches the base of your spine and it wraps around lovely. And it's just a really beautiful shawl. And I've been really loving shawls at the minute. They've been bringing me a lot of joy to make. And I'm about to cast on another one, which I'll get to later. But yeah, this is the Cowville Shawl. And every inch of it was beautiful to knit. And it doesn't take too long. It did take me a while because I just haven't been knitting in big chunks like I used to. But yes, worth every second. So please knit this and support Gabriella, because it's just one of those designs that I saw it and I knew I had to make it. Okay, so the next thing I should show you, which is probably this is my last finished object, and these are the Irish Oat Socks, and that is by Cabin 4 on Ravelry. These are beautiful socks. I was meant to be knitting the String of Hearts socks from the 52 Weeks of Socks book, but I started knitting them and I just couldn't make sense of the pattern. I don't know if anyone else has noticed that in that book, but there's a lot of typos and there's a lot of patterns that just I can't seem to make sense of. I don't know if it's a translation thing or, yeah, I'm not sure, but either way, I couldn't really understand the pattern. So I went on Ravelry and I inputted all the information for the yarn I had, and I had started the ribbed cuff on the other ones of the String of Hearts, and it's 48 stitches cast on, and I was like, okay, I've already done the cuff, I don't really want to rip it back. So I looked online and I found the pattern for this, which has the exact same cast on, exact same number of needles, and yeah, I thought it was meant to be, and I love these socks. I absolutely love them. So they've just been blocked, but I will try and show you. They have the most delicious cables. So it has your moss stitch section going down the middle, then it has just very simple 2x2 cables, and then pearls to define them, and then the rest is just stockinette. And yeah, these socks are for just comfort. They're not very practical. They're knit at a very loose gauge, and I haven't used nylon sock yarn. I've just used something that I had in my stash. I don't know what it is, because it had already been, wound up into a ball. So I don't have the tags, but it's a very soft yarn, and I will look and try find out what it is with some detective skills, and that'll be available in the show notes. So yeah, these are very nice, but they're a very loose gauge is the thing. They're knit on 3.25s, I believe. So yeah, they're not a very tight gauge at all. So they're not, in terms of practicality, perhaps not the best pattern, but I imagine wearing these like on the sofa in the autumn and winter and early spring, just wrapped up in all my knits with some lovely fluffy socks on my feet, because I love fluffy socks and I never knit fluffy socks. So I thought, even if they're not very practical and they're not going to hold up in, you know, in my shoes or my boots, I think I still wanted to knit them and have a pair like that. And they're beautiful. They're just lovely. And I love this colorway. It's a natural colorway, it's not dyed. And I will find the name of this yarn, but I didn't want to put off recording any longer trying to faff over things, so I thought I'd just do it. So that is my next finished object. The first pair of socks I've made in a long time. I fell out of love with knitting socks but it's been so nice. I knit the first one pretty much entirely at the airport leaving Edinburgh to go to Copenhagen when I was visiting Sweden. I know Copenhagen's not in Sweden, but the way it works is my partner lives in the south of Sweden, so it's easier to fly to Copenhagen and then get the train across the bridge. And yeah, I knit one of these socks in its entirety during that, and then I started the next one on the flight back. And yeah, they were very quick to knit, very quick. So in terms of knitting socks, if you want a quick little project, these are probably good. So before I get on to works in progress and some spinning and some plant crafting, I don't know what to call that segment, plant fibre section, whatever, I don't really know, and to some acquisitions, I just wanted to catch up essentially. So yeah, as you know, I'm a gardener, so one of the reasons it's been so long from my last podcast is that I just haven't had time. I've been, working pretty non-stop outside, and by the time I get home I don't even have the energy to knit. And I've really struggled with my work-life balance this year, and it's something that I'm really working on now, and that means less knitting, unfortunately, but I see it as a very good thing. I have found that I can be a bit obsessive in terms of what I do and for how long I do it for. It wasn't very healthy, my knitting practice. It brought me joy, of course, but it left less time to do the things that I really need. So for me, a daily meditation practice is really important for my mental health, and to have time to cook a meal with love and, taking my time, and to go outside on more walks outside of work, things like that I wouldn't do because I'd get home and I'd knit until bedtime, sometimes past bedtime, because it was just the quickest way I knew to just distract myself. And distraction is good sometimes, but there is a balance, as you all know. And yeah, that's why honestly I haven't published this podcast. I recorded this podcast, actually, not this one. I am recording this now and it will be out in a few days, but I recorded number 4 a month ago before I went to Sweden, and I did it because I thought I needed to. People were wanting one, and I did it for the wrong reasons, and when I was editing it back and watching it, I just felt no joy. I felt like I was exhausted, and I could see it in my eyes. I could see that I was just going through the paces to get something done, and yeah, it wasn't fun for me to watch, and I didn't want you to watch that either, because I'm sure you would have been fine with it, but it didn't feel like it was coming from my heart. And yeah, that's what I want to do. I want to bring you joy. I want to inspire you to make and to get out in nature. And yeah, I made the decision not to post it after some advice from my lovely patrons, and they were really nice, and I've been loving our knit nights on the full moon. It's been really wholesome, and I've really enjoyed just talking to people and getting feedback on the creative process and how I can do things better. And yeah, since then, I've already taught my first retreat that I mentioned in the last episode. I taught my Nettle retreat up at Barmolach on the west coast, and yeah, it was wonderful. We made lots of lovely things, and I think I'll talk about that next, directly after talking about this retreat, because it'll link up nicely. But yeah, it was a really lovely weekend with lovely people, great organic food grown on the farm in the soil. You can see the farm from the kitchen, and we had lovely breath work in the morning, and we all went in the burn, which is just like a river essentially in Scottish, but we went in the burn and did our cold immersion. Even in the summer, the burn is cold but not as cold as when I first did it in October. That was more intense, but I really love cold water immersion. I think it's really healthy and it really kickstarts your day. And yeah, we did that, and you know, we watched the little sheep, the Bray sheep that live on the farm. They just go around in the wild. And yeah, we made some nettle bookmarks. I taught them how to make nettle cordage. We ate nettle cake. All of the food was made from nettles, like nettle seed oat cakes and nettle water for drinking, and nettle tea. We did a nice herbal nettle tea tasting, and I taught people how to taste herbs and how to categorize them into what they're good for based on what you taste as opposed to what you have read, and that was lovely. And yeah, we made some little things, and just, it was great. I taught them how to make some little nettle baskets, and yeah, a couple of the things we did is we were knoll binding with some nettle cordage that we'd made, and I just showed them a little coiled basket, and I keep my knoll binding needles in this little pot. And yeah, it's just nettle cordage that's been bound in a similar way to my pine needle baskets. And there's great pine needle basket tutorials online, but also my Patreon has one that I made, a little tutorial on how I make my pine needle baskets. And yeah, this is just a little nettle pot, and I keep my needles in there, and it's really quite wholesome. And another thing we did, some of my cordage has run away, but I will find it. Found it. It'd fallen into my bag of yarn. So we were teaching how to make cordage, and here's some, it's dried out now, so this is what I was working with, but I'll re-soak this and keep going. And this is made from Crocosmia, which is a plant that a lot of people have in their gardens, and it's a really lovely cord. I'll insert some close-ups. And yeah, it's a very simple technique to make cordage. It's also a tutorial available on my Patreon. But I really love Crocosmia cordage in specific because it's got a really rich orange colour, and you get really long lengths of fibre that you can work with. And I've been making lots of cordage recently from bramble, which is the next one I'll show, and harvesting bast from some little trees, well, not like saplings, like usually sucker growth. So when a tree gets chopped down or it's in stress, it creates suckers from the base of the tree, and you can get some lovely cordage from the bast of those suckers. And here is some bramble, which is a beautiful light straw colour. And again, I'll put some close-ups. But this is a really thin one. And I plan on making some bark pouches, and I'll use this as thread to sew them up. So yeah, we learned how to make different types of cordage, and we also made a bookmark. So I've just been reading this book, To Speak for the Trees, by Diane Beresford Kruger. That's right. And this is a beautiful, beautiful book about, so on the cover it says, "My life's journey from ancient Celtic wisdom to a healing vision of the forest." And she's a botanist and a biochemist, I believe. And she writes about her traumatic childhood and how the trees spoke to her and healed her, essentially. And it's got all the information on the different trees in the Ogham, which is the Celtic alphabet. And yeah, this is a beautiful book, but the point is I made a little bookmark, and this is just with some very thin nettle cordage and a little stone that I found on top that's bound in. And yeah, it's just a fishtail braid, essentially. Just a fishtail braid made with some nettle cordage. Very simple. You could easily just make this a bracelet instead, but I wanted a bookmark. So luckily I remember where I was. So yeah, Nettle bookmarks and cordage, and it was lovely, it was amazing. So yeah, if you want to join me for the next retreat, which is very soon, which is a bit nerve-wracking, but we will be having the Ancestral Craeft spinning retreat in August on the weekend of the 13th and 14th. It starts on the Friday, finishes on the Sunday, and it'll be a couple days of just being immersed in craft. There'll be a fire to honour our ancestors, and we'll be teaching, well, I'll be teaching you, I guess, it's just me, how to process wool from a fleece, how to skirt the fleece, how to sort the fleece, how to wash it, scour it, how to process it with carding, and how to spin it on a Jalagan Scottish spindle. And then we'll also be teaching some natural dyes, so we'll get some dye going over a fire maybe, or who knows, maybe we'll just use the hob in the kitchen depending on the weather, because it is on the west coast, which is known for being quite rainy, so we'll see. And yeah, we'll be dyeing with some dye plants, either foraged, or there'll be some madder and some weld that people can experiment with. And yeah, it's going to be a really lovely time. I know a few of my patrons are coming, and there's a few viewers that have decided to come, so thank you so much for everyone who's bought a ticket. There are still some tickets if you want to have a look. They're available on my website, which I will link below. And yeah, I hope some more of you decide to come. I really can't wait to share it all with you and to have a beautiful, beautiful time in the wild, learning these beautiful skills. And I trust me, the setting is so beautiful. There's a short hike you can do, about 30 minutes, and you can look over to the Isles of Jura and Isla, and it's just absolutely beautiful. So please do consider coming along. And I guess that syncs up pretty nicely with some works in progress and some spinning. So, my first work in progress. There's only two knitting works in progress. And this is, what's this one called? Caldwell, the Caldwell waistcoat from Stephen West. And I've only done one panel so far. So I think this is the left panel. And this isn't for me, by the way. I'm holding it up to me, but it's not for me. This is for my partner. And yeah, it's knit in 3 pieces, so your left, your right, and your back. And you basically leave, what do you call that? You place the stitches on scrap yarn down here, and this is gonna become the pocket, so it's gonna knit all the way up, and we'll stitch it in here, and then I believe you just close up this gap by seaming that together. So it's a beautiful cabled waistcoat. And this is knit in some wool that I got from Sweden. And this is Oat Socks again. I was really lucky, my partner's parents took me to Öland, which is where Oat Socks' shop is, and we travelled all the way up north on the island, which was beautiful. Sweden is absolutely stunning, and I'll put some clips of my time perhaps at the end if I have any. And because I was very present, I didn't take many photos. Family did, but I didn't because I'm terrible. But yeah, this is going to be a really lovely rustic waistcoat, and the buttons are going to be driftwood, similar to my Cume cardigan, because that's what he wants. And yeah, what colour was this? It's just called brun, so just brown, which isn't very descriptive, I know, but it's a worsted weight yarn. So it's just this one here, Ull Centrum, 100% svensk ull, so just 100% Swedish wool, 3 trådigt ullgarn, which is just 3 ply, I think. And it's how many meters? 200 meters per 100 grams. So I think I have 5 skeins of this. And In the pattern, the back is striped, but I don't really like that, and neither does my partner. So I bought more wool so I could do the whole back piece in this color too. And I love knitting this. Chunky cables are great. This knit up so fast. I did this one in my COVID quarantine, and yeah, I'm looking forward to finishing this. Now that my shawl's out the way and my little socks, I'm gonna focus on that. And yeah, so like I say, I bought this at the boutique on Öland, and yeah, it's really cheap. It's really not an expensive wool, especially if you buy it from the shop in person. Yeah, and what else do I have? I'm gonna take a drink. I forgot how much talking this is. But I won't talk about everything this episode. I'm gonna pace it out a bit. So my next work in progress is held in this beautiful handmade little tray. And this was a gift from my partner's mum, and well, basically his family. They got me this as a thank you for coming to visit, which was very, very sweet. His mum actually saw me looking at this at a handmade craft little it wasn't a warehouse, it was this old mill, and I loved these. So beautiful, handmade locally, and it was at I can't remember the name of the place. We went canoeing there. It's in Småland. I think it's called Koro or something. I can't quite remember it. It begins with a K. And yeah, we went canoeing, then we looked at the crafts later, and now this is mine. I feel very grateful. And I am knitting the Hebridean mahair cushion. So if you're not familiar with mahair, it's a very specific habitat on the Isles in Scotland, and it's basically like this beachy meadow area. So it's between the beach and the mainland, well, the land itself, and it's this sandy wildflower meadow habitat. If you haven't seen it before, you should really look at it. It's so beautiful. I'd love to see it in person, but I've never been. And this is from the Berlin Yarn Company, so I'll get to that later, but I bought a kit from there for the, what's it called, Korpsol shawl, which is in the 52 Weeks of Shawls book. Basically means raven song, that's all I remember, and I think it's Korp. And yeah, this caught my eye as well, and their wool is beautiful. The Berlin Yarn Company, they're also on the west coast of Scotland, and they produce lovely Hebridean and Cheviot wool, and this is their 100% Cheviot, and the colorway is called bog cotton, and I believe it's 4-ply. Let me find one with a label. Yeah, I think it's, yeah, 4-ply, semi-worsted prep. So it's kind of woolen spun, but yeah, it's lovely. And bog cotton. And they have a lovely logo with the little Berlin ship. And yeah, I really love, it's called From Seafaring Sheep. And that's because they take their sheep across the water to another island to graze in the summer. So they're little seafaring sheep, which is lovely. And I haven't done much on this because I started it last night, but it's lovely so far. I can't really show you much. Here's a little bit of detail there, a little bit here, here's a little cable bit, and yeah, there's not much to show, but it's a pleasure to knit with, and the yarn and the pattern. I love having a paper pattern like this. I love just being able to take my wool and not have to take my phone or anything to check for the pattern. So yeah, the back of it is also, it's not shown on here, so you'll have to, I'll put the link so you can look at this kit, but the back is beautiful as well. It has buttons, and yeah, just all the mahair wildflowers that are inspired by this design. It's just amazing. It is a lot to look at in the chart. It's a lot, but once you've started, you can see the motifs that run up, and it's easier to keep track of where you are. You don't have to follow it, you know, counting, oh, how many, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You can just kind of go, okay, I go to this pattern, then I start this section. And yeah, it's a very good pattern, makes perfect sense. And yeah, I'm really excited to do more on this because I absolutely love this yarn and this pattern, and it'll be my first time making like a home accessory with knitting, and I just really want a nice squishy pillow, really, essentially is all I'm looking for, and I just love the inspiration behind it. And yeah, I will also be knitting the Cowville shawl soon. I've got the yarn, but I just haven't started it yet. Basically, I got the kit for the shawl at their website because that's the wool that the designer uses. So the only difference is the Cowville has some detailing in a dark colour, and this will look black, I think, on the camera, but I'll try to get a close-up in natural light so you can see that this is a dark Hebridean brown. This is 100% Hebridean, not dyed. It's just stunning, and this is called peaty brown. This company is delicious. I love the yarn from here. And they also sent me a little shade card for the different colours that they have. They have some beautiful marled and natural tones, and then some colours. It's minimal, but I love it. What else? And the shawl is knit in the same colour as the cushion, so I've got a lot of this bog cotton colourway, but hopefully I'll use it all. Okay, before I get onto spinning, which will be the last thing, I wanted to show you a little needle case that I made. I sewed this up using some fabric scraps that they sell in charity shops here. And this is just a little needle case for my interchangeable needles. And on the front, I embroidered, well, it's meant to be mugwort, Artemisia vulgaris, which is one of my favourite herbs. And it's got a little moon beside it. Yeah, I think I'm quite proud of that. And yeah, it's just a needle case. It's a bit scruffy with all my needles, but yeah, it just holds all my different sizes, all my little fixed circulars, all my little cables, some crochet hooks and stuff in there, and it just keeps it all together. I don't know how to explain how I do this. I just kind of made it up as I went. But if you're interested in knowing how I made it, I can try write it up for you. And it's just, yeah, wrapped around like that. And it just keeps everything together. So that's my little delve into sewing. I have actually been doing a lot of sewing recently for garments. I want to get more into natural dyeing cloth so that I can sew a summer wardrobe, because I've got lots of knitwear, but yeah, I really need some summer clothes, as I realised when we had the heat wave here earlier this week, and I realised I didn't have anything that was cool. So I've been knitting some skirts and some tops. I don't know if you're interested in seeing that, so I'll leave it for now, and just let me know in the comments if you want to see the things that I've been sewing. I tend to show more of that on my Patreon. I do a little vlog every month just showing some of the things I'm pottering on with, and yeah, there's still time to join because the next one will be released just a couple days probably before this podcast airs. So if you want to join my Patreon, you'll get a video a month and a herb of the month as well. which is written up, and this month is yarrow, I believe. Yes, yarrow this month, which I'm actually going out to forage this afternoon after this. Some yarrow and some meadowsweet. So yeah, I'll talk more about that on my Patreon in those videos, what I'm using it for, and perhaps I'll share the finished things on here next time. But yes, so spinning. Not much to say about this one, other than I am preparing some of this Ushant fleece that I showed you last time. And this is special. This is from Sue from Hawkshaw Sheep. I got this from the Perth Yarn Festival, but at the Scottish Yarn Producers Showcase, Eva, the person who runs the whole thing, she let Sue know that I had a podcast and that she thinks she'd like it, and Sue watched it and she recognised me when I went to the show, and we had a chat, and I actually got to go visit her wonderful little farm, meet her sheep in the lambing season, and I'm working on a blog post talking about that experience, which will be on my website as well. And Sue was really beautiful, and she gave me this, which I'm sitting on. I'll insert a clip of her giving this to me. You'll just prepare for me going, oh my god, many times. She gave me this fleece, this felted fleece, which is also Ushant, so the same as this that I'm working with. And this is such a generous gift. And yeah, the little clip I insert will explain why she gave that to me, but I just wanted to show it in person.
Comes and then gets sorted out.
Oh wow, that's a lot of wool.
Yeah, and I've already sent 80 kilos away.
Oh my god.
But this is like 2 years worth. Yeah, because I never got round to
Yeah,
sending
that's
any
true.
away. So there is all sorts in here.
The smell.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing.
Yeah, that's the waste.
Do you store it sort of under the queen? Does that help?
Yeah.
Does that help it store longer, or?
I don't know if it does. It doesn't make a difference for a couple of years, and then after that the lanolin starts to harden.
Right.
Okay.
But here it doesn't, because it's such a damp atmosphere. I mean, I was doing this in February, and it was cold and it was wet and it was damp, and the fleeces were actually moist.
Yeah. Could just the atmosphere.
It's just the atmosphere.
Yeah.
They just draw it
Yeah.
in. I mean, my fleeces are so dirty because of the peat out on the hill, and they're rubbing it, and
Yeah.
then there was this wet. Well, it wasn't wet lanolin. It was greasy lanolin. Sticks to your fingers, and then all the peat sticks to that, and it's one of my least favourite jobs actually is cleaning
Yeah.
the fleeces to go to the mill.
It's one of my favourite jobs though,
for me, but I only have to do the one, like at a time.
Full scale.
I love that, seeing how the colour changes. But yeah, if I was doing it that many times, then I agree, it probably wouldn't be great.
Where is it?
Just look at that. It's so warm.
Amazing.
That's it.
Ooh, what's in here, eh?
What's in here? I want to give you this if you will have it.
Are you kidding?
I'm not kidding. I've seen you sitting on your chair on your podcast.
I know.
And I just think the back of your chair just needs something on it.
Oh my god. It does though.
It doesn't look that comfortable.
It's not
to
that
me.
the seat's nice because it's got
Yeah.
it's got like a natural indentation, but the back is
the
awful.
back is awful. So I had this, and then when I watched your podcast, I thought, I know what I can do with this if you will have it.
Oh my
It's
god.
felted Wesson fleece.
That's how you say it.
No, you actually say it. I've
Oh.
spelt it wrong. It's actually spelt with an O,
Okay.
and it's pronounced Ushant.
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 That sounds way better than what I was trying to say.
Ushant, and it's spelt with an O.
Ushant.
Ushant is
Oh
the
wow.
saying. So if you will have that, I will love to give you it because it's of no use to me. I mean, it may need a little bit of felt
Yeah.
in places. There's a couple of holes, but it's a beautiful little
That
fleece.
is incredible.
I thought that would just sit on the back of your chair nicely.
That is incredible.
And yeah, so I'm preparing this, but I don't have combs yet because I'm struggling to find a good pair of a middle price point combs in the UK. It's really hard to get my hands on Valkyrie, which is what a lot of you suggested from the last episode. So what I've been doing is I've just been very delicately combing this with my carders, but keeping them the same way, just dragging them through, getting rid of any little knots. And yeah, so that's taking me a while, but I'm not in a rush. So that's one thing I'm working on. And from last time, you probably remember that I was working on my Bray fleece, which is my first fleece that I've processed by hand. And the good news is I have finished one full skein. So this is my first skein of the Bray fleece, and it's really lovely. I'll put in a nice close-up of this. It's prepared woolen spun. It's prepared woolen and spun woolen. So I spin from little rolags, and it's plied together just as a 2-ply, and I wanted to spin it a little bit loose, not too tight, because Bray is quite rustic. It's a very long-haired sheep, and it's not got the softest wool, so to kind of maintain a bit of that structure, I didn't want to over-ply it or over-spin it. So I've got one big skein. This is what I think 150 grams, which is basically just from filling up 2 of my bobbins with singles, then plying them together on my jumbo flyer and bobbin from Ashford, and that got me this much, which is hefty. And I'll only need 2 skeins of this to start my Vaux shawl. I think it's Vaux shawl by Nina Pomeranki, and I'm going to be dyeing this with nettle eventually. I just need to do the other skein first, and that's all I have on my first bobbin of singles for the next one because I've just been so busy. But yeah, one full skein of that, working on the next lot. And I'm also preparing, I've decided it's best for me to prepare it all now, because there's nothing worse than getting into the flow of spinning and realizing you have to prepare more rolags. It can take you out of it. It's nice to just have this as its own thing. And I've been learning a lot with this fleece. I've realized that I need to change how I wash them. I think I need to get it hotter, and I need a better scouring agent, because there's still a lot of grease and dirt in them that I struggle to get out. And yeah, I don't think I'd had it hot enough, the water, to actually get rid of that built up grease. So, and I also realised that I was too broad with my selection for the wool that would make it to spinning. I just wanted to use it all, but actually to get a good quality skein, I realised that there is a bit of, you know, push and pull with that. So this is all I have left now. I have a bit of this fleece left, but I dyed it with some alder cones, so this won't be for this batch of yarn. So I have about half of this in alder, and then this is all I have left of the natural colour. And yeah, this will definitely get me my second skein, especially with what I've got prepared already. It might even get me 3 skeins. But yeah, that's something I need to work on. So yeah, that is my spinning. I don't know if I have anything else. Apart from some acquisitions, I won't go too much into this because I haven't actually bought that much. I got some things at the Scottish Wool Producers Showcase, which I'll just show you a couple of those skeins, which I only got 3 different types of yarn, one of which being this beautiful Hawkshaw sheep wool. And the other 2 I got are this Anfield Farm mohair from their own mohair goats. And it's a mix of mohair and Shetland. It's really lovely. I don't know what I'll make with this, but it was just really, it's a really nice wool, and I'm sure I'll find a nice accessory to make. And I also got some dye Gilpin Saoirse wool, which this is lovely. Really, really lovely. And yeah, I saw a cowl knit in this and I really wanted it, so I might knit a cowl with this. And then the other things that I have are just what you've seen. So the Ocentrum 3-ply, I got that in Sweden. And the last thing I also got was this colorway, which is, it's the same yarn, so the 3-ply worsted, but it's in the colorway Sandstorm. And I plan on making a worsted cardigan out of this. It's a really lovely color, and it's brown, but it's a different brown to what I usually use, so I'm taking that as a win. I'm gonna go out and do some foraging, which I really need. I just really need to be grounded again. So yeah, please look at my website for tickets for the yarn retreat, the spinning retreat, and please also look on there for all the show notes. I'll be posting them on my website now. Just to have everything in one place. My partner made my website, which is very sweet of him, and it looks lovely. So it would be a shame not to look at his hard work. And yeah, do I have anything else to say? Keep an eye out on my website for my blog post about Sue from Hawkshaw Sheep. I'll include some little footage of her sheep at some point in this video when I edit. And yeah, enjoy the little footage that I put at the end of all the things that have been going on. There will be footage from late spring and things from way back, but I hope you enjoy them nonetheless. And I hope that your life is full of beauty and that you can see the beauty even if you're in hardship. And I hope you've all enjoyed a bit of sun, or if you're in the deep of winter, I hope you're nestled up in your cozy little nests and that you're enjoying all Mother Nature has to offer. I can't thank all of you enough for all of your support, your lovely comments, for all your support on Patreon, which has really helped me, especially during my COVID sickness, because I'm self-employed and I was struggling financially. Patreon really helped me, so thank you so much, and I can't wait to speak to you next time, and I'm sure it will be more frequent now. It's very loud outside, I'm sorry. The summer is very busy in the city, But anyway, I hope to make it more frequent now. Like I say, the duration was just because of things going on in my life, personal matters that were just more urgent than this. But I feel really happy now that I've recorded again, and I can't wait for you to watch it. I can't wait to edit it and have some fun. And yeah, the next one I hope to include more footage and to be more creative with making it. I think that would bring me a lot of joy, and include some more herbal stuff or some crafting when out in nature things. But until then, take care, drink lots of good herbal tea, make sure you're making the most of all the beautiful wild medicine that's out there right now in the heat of summer. And yeah, I'll see you next time. Bye bye.